Today we'll be exploring more of City Park. Afterwards, we'll head over to some alleyways downtown, where persons experiencing homelessness are generally found. Drugs, particularly opioids, seem to play a role in contributing to the state of homelessness for many. There are genuine people out there, homeless, who, having been through unfortunate circumstances, have ended up without a home. However, in Kelowna, there is a constant problem of needles being left around city property and on the streets. Drug-related crimes appear to be rampant in the city. Unfortunately, this has given homelessness a bad name in Kelowna. We found lots of interesting artwork at City Park. There are beautiful paintings on the tunnel walls and behind the public washroom. Walking through City Park, we found some work of art behind the basketball court. You may have your own interpretation of the drawing, but I personally find this design to be representative of an individual hallucinating on drugs. Next off, we drove through alleyways downtown. You may have your own interpretations of these drawings, but I found these works of art to mimic the lifestyle of a drug user. We came across Aaron, who goes by Geezer.
Came to Kelowna, November 27th on the airplane with my cat. Things went south. I have been, became homeless by circumstance. I have chosen to remain homeless because it's a lot of fun.
Sure.
My best friend, or somebody who I thought was very close to me at the time, had told me that he was off drugs finally and that we were going to be able to spend a few more years together as adults. I came, sort of like put everything together and came over to Kelowna, and it turns out he was still using drugs. I didn't find that out until I got to the airport from Brandon to Kelowna, and it was a bad idea to have still gone through with it, except that it turns out that it was a great thing for me, right?
Sure.
Basically things went south with him once my stuff arrived, which was $800, and about 2 weeks later, he kicked me out of the house and various threats upon my person and everything. I felt that it wasn't prudent to call the cops, so all of my belongings got taken, like all of my belongings that I had ever accumulated. They have been very reasonable, and the ones that have got to know me know that I'm not here to fuck up their city and make a big mess and break a bunch of laws or anything like that.
Great.
It took a little while, and as soon as I got into, not as soon as I got into Kelowna, but almost as soon as I was on the homeless scene, I did get caught for some fairly serious crime that really seemed like a big misunderstanding at the time. I never thought the police would see it that way, and I know now that at least a couple of them do, right? I never ended up really being convicted. I'm not sure what happened with that. I have a short-term memory loss thing that sort of makes things difficult, and I stopped going to court, and they stopped asking me to, so I'm not really sure exactly which one that is.
Kind of just all faded away.
I've what are they called? I have things that I have to, things that I have to live by, things that I can and can't do or whatever.
Sure.
Restriction. I can't. There's a word for it, but there's things that I'm not allowed to do on paper, but there's no court date that I know about, right?
Okay.
So, yeah. And then there's lots of legitimate stories of police overstepping their bounds and doing cruel and inhumane things to other people in other, countries or cities or whatever. But here in Kelowna, my experience with them has been relatively favorable. I would not call them anything short of, people trying to do a pretty tough job in changing.
Right.
We are, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm too far off with this, but I would say that we are probably seeing, we're seeing a shift towards more homelessness and more communal living, and all those people that were screaming about how they wanted to erase the middle class in the 80s or whatever long before then, were completely right. And that's probably, in Kelowna, we have super rich, and then a huge group of everybody else,
right,
where I am, for the most part, on the same level as most tradespeople, more than they are on the same level as their boss.
Right, totally.
Yeah.
So you have a pretty interesting perspective on homelessness in this town. Is there anything you'd like to see happen within the homeless community in the future, or for the better or the worse?
Well, I know that my friend Janet is getting very excited about the Homeless World Cup, and she wants to see as many people possible.
What's that? What is the Homeless World Cup?
I don't know enough to speak about it, so you'd have to Google it because that's what the posters say.
Okay.
But I do know that that the idea is to get everybody in the community, or as many people as can possibly come together, to get together on Fridays in the afternoon at 1:30 for soccer.
Okay, cool.
And I told her that's pretty optimistic, that's pretty lofty, and most of us have to do things that are definitely not conducive to sports.
Sure.
You can't smoke crack 23 hours a day if you're playing soccer. That type of thing. But I think that it's going to be really good for opening dialogue, and like I said, I think that's pretty important because there's going to be so much more of this.
Sure.
You will see, right? Yeah, that's definitely what I think. My job, partly because of attitudes towards the homeless, I became a different person in their eyes when I all of a sudden just didn't have a place to stay. I was sketchy and skeevy or whatever. One of the employees.
What were you doing for work?
I was working in the kitchen at awesome. Yeah, I absolutely loved it there. Great food and everything like that. And great teams. I'm not holding any grudges against the one person who kind of influenced my decision and everybody else's mindset.
And that was your last job then?
Yes, it was my last job. It won't be my last job, but it was the last. I've done a couple odd job type things, just hauling rocks and shoveling snow and stuff, right? Because I was here through the winter. But when you're homeless and I don't have any kind of mailing address, I'm not staying at one of the shelters. Originally because I wanted to stay away from the drug culture that pervades them, which is kind of silly in retrospect. Now I just don't stay there because I don't like the smell of smelly feet and farts.
Fair enough.
And sleeping on the streets is pretty, this is the best place in Canada to do it, so it's probably the best place in the world, right? There's some dangers, there's some people who would seek out to harm the homeless for whatever their particular gripes are.
Right. Where do you usually find yourself staying then if you're not at the shelter? Just anywhere is good?
A couple times.
Yeah?
Any corner you learn pretty quickly that any corner is a piss corner, so you have to learn where you can and can't sleep in order to go for a few days without bathing and still come across, as being fairly human.
Sure.
It's easier. Some of the people that I have met are pretty creative, and they sleep on the rooftops and stuff like that.
Cool.
Or they've got their own thing. I tried to camp shortly outside of town, but because of no running water, it was just too much of a pain in the ass I was probably burning as much water getting it there in the daylight hours as I was, trying to stick around there.
Yeah, double the work, yeah.
Yeah, like one of the things that I think is, moving on to a different topic, but one of the things that is pretty fantastic about losing all of your belongings is that, as people have said, forever, whatever, that it definitely sets you free in a new way. You can definitely connect with actual people in a new way. Like,
Sure.
whereas before, if you were, one of a clique, once somebody's had their identity and their belongings stripped away, they all, fit into a very new group. And
Right.
It's actually pretty comfy. You
Right.
find the best and the worst in the homeless. I would have never grown as a person in many ways if I hadn't come here to Kelowna and had all the bad stuff happen.
Sure.
I would say, like, I wasn't a very social person for most of the last little bit of my adult life. Of 6 years I was sitting on the internet with like maybe 2 real friends that would make an effort to try to get me interested in doing something with them every once in a while.
Right.
But I wasn't doing anything back, and I wasn't doing anything to meet people, and I wasn't doing anything to even be interested myself in anything, right? I had no
Sure.
plans to ever go see a band in concert again, or ever
Right.
write something that I actually felt again, or anything like that. And now I have absolutely limitless opportunities.
Sure.
Like, I can pretty much do anything. And the only thing that is stopping me is my inability to decide what it is I would like to do.
Sure.
Doesn't mean that I'm not working on a few things at once, but like,
I know that struggle, man.
yeah,
I hear you.
I don't think that I'm alone in it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Next off, we decided to head over to Bentley Park in Rutland. We found some artwork on the skate rinks. On these skateboard rinks seem to illustrate the lifestyle that some drug users emulate.